What's up, guys? It's Sean Otto, owner of Hollow Training Grounds, and this is our third Q&A segment. We got some questions left over from last time and some new ones, so we're going to answer those. With me today is special co-host Taylor McDowell is back because Sal has been a busy pain in my ass and has been not been able to come. And I told all y'all that we were going to do a full-length episode when I did the last weekly gut check. I told y'all we're going to do a full-length episode this week, no matter what. And Sal pulled out last minute because you're an asshole, Sal. So here we are, Saturday night, doing a Q&A. So that's how we do.
That'll work.
Thank you for doing the Q&A because we're both struggling right now. I know you're not working on a ton of sleep. I'm tired as shit. So, yeah. All right.
Good.
Let's get to it.
Okay. So I'm going to read questions. Do you have a strong opinion about caffeine pre-workout consumption?
So I kind of feel that this is person to person. Me personally, my body doesn't metabolize caffeine, so I can take it whenever and it doesn't do shit. I'm big on workout intensity. So in my opinion, it's whatever you need to do to make sure your intensity is where it needs to be. So if you're coming off of working all day and you need caffeine as a pick-me-up to get in there and get it, take it. If that's what it takes to get it done.
Do you have a cap on the amount of caffeine pre-workout?
You'd actually probably be a lot better at that than me because, like I said, I don't take it. So I don't have a cap because it doesn't matter. I can take as much as I want. Doesn't fucking matter.
I would say about 200 milligrams probably pre-workout is what you need.
And I know that's low because I know a lot of these pre-workouts, they have a shit ton.
They have a shit ton.
So I'm sure that's probably surprising to a lot of people.
Well, it causes sleep issues at night. A lot of sleep issues, especially for people who work out in the evening and you take pre-workout and you go through a training session and then you're all hyped up and then you go home and it takes you a couple hours to wind down. I mean, you might be looking at going to bed around 10 o'clock or 10:30.
Right. Well, what if they train in the morning?
If they train in the morning, so I'm different. I prefer using carbs as energy source. So I would put the carbs around the training and not necessarily throwing in a whole bunch of stimulants at that time, because at that point you're going to end up with a 2 o'clock crash. And what happens with a 2 o'clock crash? You take more caffeine.
Your day sucks.
Your day sucks.
Yeah, your day sucks.
And you crash
at 2 o'clock.
Well, you're pounding coffee or you're pounding an energy drink, and then that causes systemic inflammation in your body, and then you're not dropping the weight that you need at night to wake up in the morning and be tight in the morning. It's a snowball effect.
Well, I was never super big on pre-workout, like a pre-workout stim supplement, because I always ate right before I trained.
Right.
And those usually work good like on an empty stomach. So I really wasn't getting the full benefit of what it was supposed to do because I ate literally right before I trained.
Right. You use your carbs as your energy source.
Right. So I was never really a big pre-workout person. I know some people swear by them, and I really think it's just a person by person thing, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right.
Next.
Number 2.
Let me see. Okay, so number 2 is I sweat like a whore in church, which I actually enjoy because it lets me know I'm working hard. But other than drinking a fuck ton of water, do you have any tips or recommendations for retaining fluid and staying hydrated?
Well, one of the things that's going to help you retain fluid is going to be carbs and sodium. So you need to make sure you have a pretty high. I keep my sodium super high. Depending on what your goal is physique wise, that's going to determine how many carbs, you eat during the day. But sodium's a great way to make sure you stay hydrated and your body's holding on to the water like it should.
Yep.
You know, I mean, I salt all my meals. I mean, I take sodium pills before I train.
That's what I was
I take
saying.
sodium
The
pills
sodium
after I train.
pills.
Yeah.
The sodium
Yeah.
pills in your bag, and you throw them into your water, or you just take them as an actual capsule.
Well, but then also making sure you're getting your electrolytes in. So, you know, so they have like electrolyte packs you can add, or usually if you, some kind of BCAA or EAA supplement usually has like electrolytes in it. You can add that to your water. You know, if you're, depending on what you're doing, if you're sweating all day long to where the water loss is an issue, I mean, I would absolutely be adding at least 1 to 2 scoops of some type of BCAA, EA, probably really, I like EAAs, really like an EAA, essential amino acid powder to your water, just to make sure you're constantly replenishing, you know, those electrolytes lost, but then also, you know, making sure your sodium is high throughout the day.
I actually have a bunch of my clients right now eating pickles. Mm-hmm. So
I don't like pickles.
well,
I know you're a pickle
some of them
junkie.
love
I don't like pickles.
And they're, you know what? If you're mowing the lawn, eat some pickles. If you went, I have one that rollerblades. If you went rollerblading, eat some pickles. And those are full of electrolytes. They're full of sodium. They're full of water. They'll give you water content too.
Oh, there you go. So you got 3 in 1. You got electrolytes, sodium, and water all in one in pickles.
Yeah.
So if you like pickles, I fucking hate pickles. So I'm losing out. I'm losing out on the trio. I don't like that shit. But yeah, really just making sure you're getting adequate everything else. Because if your sodium's low, if you're not eating the way you're supposed to eat, your body's literally just going to keep throwing water away. You know, the more you intake, the more it's going to output. So if you want it to stick and hold, sodium, carbs, electrolytes.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Good deal. Good question. Because it is, especially in Louisiana right now. I mean, it's literally like the 7th layer of hell.
It is.
So.
And I usually also make sure that you're drinking at least a gallon a day. Like minimum is a gallon.
Yeah. Especially if you're sweating, especially if you have a job or something where you're sweating, you know, throughout the day, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number 3.
All right. Hold on. Why do I feel Valhalla puts out way more energy than every other gym fitness center?
Well, so day one, the goal was always the environment and the culture, because other than equipment selection, I always believed that that's kind of what made a gym. So that was always the goal. The goal was always to have like a badass environment that you could walk into, and regardless if you were tired or having a shitty day or whatever, you know, you walk in and it erases it and you have a great workout. So what kind of builds that is the people, and how you get the people is from the message. So that's why I always put out a very blunt message, and I always walk the line in terms of what I believed in and what Valhalla is, because I knew if we had this varied demographic in terms of mindset, the environment and the culture was never, I mean, it was essentially going to be, that's what corporate fitness is. Corporate fitness is literally just all kinds of different people all joined together, and it just creates a lot of commotion.
Well, the personalities clash.
Right, it's not synergistic.
Right, because you have a high achiever with a low achiever,
Correct.
and someone's not racking their weights, someone is racking their weights, and people are getting frustrated.
Exactly. So the whole thing was pushing the message really, really hard, being really firm on the message to bring the people that rallied around the message and had the mindset in. And those were the people that were going to really create the environment. So that's what I say. People always try and give me, especially members, try and give me a lot of credit for building Valhalla. And I tell them all the time that it's really them, because I mean, I can bring in all the equipment and I can put all of the sayings and all the graphics on the wall and all of that shit. But if you don't have the people that rally around the message, and if you don't have the people with the mindset that come in, it doesn't fucking matter.
Well, it pushes the other ones out. It makes them feel awkward, where they'll either step up and act in a certain way and want to do better, or they'll leave.
Well, and that's what I always think is funny, is when people think that like it's only meatheads or at Valhalla, or it's only like juice heads and shit like that. And it's hilarious, because Especially now. Now, like when we first opened, the majority of the members were like powerlifters and bodybuilders. Well, we're 7 years in, 7.5 years in. A lot of those people's lives have gone in different directions. A lot of people don't compete anymore. So, like, out of the 600 members that I have, I would literally see probably 3%, 2% compete now. Like it's a lot different than what it first was. Now it's more regular everyday people, but that share the same mindset. So that's why I always laugh when people are like, oh, you got to look a certain way or you got to compete to go to Valhalla. I'm like, no, you don't. You just have to have a mindset. Like you have to have the mindset that we preach.
To show up every day, work hard.
And that's where the energy comes from. The energy comes from the people. The environment comes from the people. The culture comes from the people. The people all have the same mindset, and that's what creates it. So, and there's really not a lot of there's more now. You got more private-owned gyms that are popping up in different cities that are preaching like the community and the headstrong message, which is good, and that's where you're going to see that type of culture develop in those gyms too. But you're never going to have it corporate fitness. You're never, because corporate fitness is never going to say the shit that I'm going to say. They're never going to walk the line. Corporate fitness is literally designed. It's a numbers thing. So we need to make our numbers quota every month, because if not, corporate's going to come down on our ass. So it's literally say what you have to say, do whatever sales you have to do, tell the people what they have to do, and get everyone and anyone that you can in there. Well, that's why they're never going to have a culture there. They're never going to have the environment that a privately owned gym can have, because they're not doing all that.
But I think that there's a couple other layers to that as well. So for Valhalla, you have that trial period where they pay 3 months up front. And that separates people from who's serious and committed and they know they want to be here to someone who might be not necessarily hot, but maybe they're a little warm or a little cold.
Right, and that's what I tell people when they ask what it's for. I said basically it's for you to figure out if you fit in with us and if we fit in with you.
Yeah.
It's basically that's basically in a nutshell what it is. Because you're going to find out really quick if you want to be here or not.
Very quick. And I feel like with the culture as it is, when someone steps in the door, they do have kind of some incentive to even step up or get better, because it breeds that culture where you walk in the door and you're like, oh, I want to be better. I can be better. I can do better. I can do everything that everyone is doing here. I can do this.
Well, yeah, and I think it's also because it's so many normal people that are there. You come and you see these normal people that you get to know, and you become friends with, and you find out their story. Yeah. And then you find out what they're doing, whether it be, like I've continually lost weight to where I want to, compete and take, knock it off my bucket list or whatever. And then you see these people do it, and then your story is not very different from theirs. You're just a regular person. So then it plants that seed in your head. Well, why can't I? Why can't I do it? And
because you can.
Yeah, you can. You do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Just do it.
Yeah.
So
you see everyone else doing all these things,
and it creates that.
And you're like, oh wait, like I can do this too.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And that's just that again. It's the energy. It's the energy in the culture.
It is, and I think that people at Valhalla have a sort of a trade of services too, because I've done things where I'm like, I'll help you out. And then they'll be like, well, I can help you do this. And it's not even inside the gym. It's outside in everyday life.
Right.
I mean, you have gym people that have come and fixed your AC here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a community. But I think another layer that Valhalla has is that you have more of a community service going on too. So you have the once a month breakfast that you'll do. And you'll have angels come in with the school supplies. Or you had, who was it with the dogs? Where it was like they fed the police dogs.
Yeah.
And so you'll have different community members coming in, or someone in the gym has a tragedy and you hold fundraisers and donations and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
sure.
So
Yeah, well,
you don't see that. You don't see that in a corporate gym. You see that in a community and a private
yeah,
gym.
well, that's the thing. And it's about, I mean, I always believed, especially right now at how hard life is right now, is like if you have the means to help somebody, you should. Now, there's limits on that. I'm not sitting here saying you need to support somebody else or, you know, whatever. But like you don't realize and you don't know how far the smallest gesture can go and how much the smallest gesture can mean to somebody that's really going through it.
Yeah.
So, like for example, the last fundraiser we did was for a domestic abuse survivor that finally got the courage to leave the abusive relationship she was in. Well, now she's, you know, a single mom. She's taking care of two really, really young kids and she's struggling. Well, she didn't want to ask for help. Like she had no help. For whatever reason, you know, the family wasn't really helping out that much. And she wanted to do it on her own, and she was a very proud person. She didn't want to ask for help, and her cousin, who's a member, saw what she was going through and was like, she needs help. Like she's spiraling, it's snowballing, and it's getting harder and harder and worse and worse. So we raised money for her, and I mean, we raised a good bit of money. I mean, I think we could have raised more, but I mean, it was still a decent amount of money. It meant the fucking world to her.
Right.
I mean, you the way she acted, you would have thought we gave her $20,000.
Right.
You know,
well,
so
we
you
have had
just don't
back to
know.
back.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's been back to back this summer.
Right. You just don't know how far, like just this, something you may think is so insignificant really may mean the world to somebody else, and it costs nothing to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing.
Nope.
You know. So. And I think when you can provide that too with your business, that solidifies the environment and the energy and the culture, because now you have customer loyalty. You don't have customer satisfaction, you have customer loyalty.
And they want to give back.
Correct.
Because they've received, so it makes them want to give back.
Correct.
So, let me see.
Next question. Number was this 4?
Yes.
Yeah, 4. Okay.
Okay, number 4. How in the fuck did we go from starting a revolution over basically a 2% tax increase on tea to now being taxed on everything and accepting it? Now we're taxed on every dollar we make, every dollar we spend, and every dollar we save. When did America become this way?
I love my true blue American questions. In a nutshell, because we allowed it, you know, when the country was new, you know, when the country was being founded and people had enough of basically a lot of the similar bullshit that we're going through today. These were, you know, a lot of people don't realize that the founding fathers were like in their 20s. So these were young, determined, strong-spirited men that were tired of the bullshit and believed in a better way of life, believed that they could have something amazing, and literally like fought and were willing to sacrifice their lives for it. And they achieved it. Well, it's kind of like the analogy that you'll hear sometimes. So when you have a dog that you let out in your front yard and they have a doghouse and you put them on a chain to where they literally can go anywhere in the yard they want. The chain's long enough to where they can reach any part of the yard.
Okay.
Well, if like every month or every couple months you take a link out of the chain, you shorten the chain by a link, it happens so slow over time that the dog doesn't realize he's slowly losing his freedom. Mm-hmm. And he gets so used to and conditioned to having a little bit less freedom over time that by the time it gets down to where he can only go 5 feet from his doghouse, it's happened so slowly over time, he forgot what it was like. to be able to roam the whole yard. So he doesn't protest it. He doesn't put up a fight. It's the exact same thing. We allowed this shit to happen. We have voted and put these people in office instead of getting them the fuck out of office when they do shit like this. And slowly over time, they pull a little freedom, and they pull a little here and a little here and a little there. Probably the best thing that happened, thankfully, it didn't happen to the degree that I would have liked to have seen it happen, but I was happy that it happened to some degree, was with the COVID shit. You know, when they did the mask mandates and everything, there were people who resisted, there were people that allowed it. But then after everything was said and done, people saw how it was all bullshit and how they were lied to. Every time it got hinted that it was going to happen again, people were like, fuck you, I'm not wearing a mask, I'm not closing my business, I'm not doing any of that shit, like bullshit. I'm not doing it.
And that should have been what happened the first time.
Correct. That should have been what happened the first time.
It really should have been.
Because the reason why they were able to do, because if everyone would have resisted, okay, if everyone would have said, fuck you, I'm not putting on a mask, and all these businesses that supported this shit lost money, then it would have stopped. It all, because the goal was to hurt the small businesses, because the large corporations could survive it. But the goal was to hurt the small businesses because they couldn't make it. Many didn't. Many small businesses had to close shop. And if we would have kept trying to give the small businesses business and said, screw all this bullshit, we wouldn't be where we're at today. We just wouldn't. I mean, anytime you allow, and people think, oh no, this isn't a restriction of freedom. This isn't that, blah, 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 blah. Look, if you look over the course of time, okay, it is. If you look at what America was and our freedoms and what we were allowed to do and what we weren't allowed to do to now, it's completely different. And that's the thing. So people now are like, man, this is bullshit. I get taxed on every dollar I make. I pay taxes on every dollar I spend. I pay taxes on everything I own.
Everything you save too. Like, you get taxed when you pull it out.
Right. What this is bullshit. Well, yeah, it's bullshit. It never used to be like this. The problem was every time they took a little piece that you thought, oh, no, this isn't a big deal.
Because
like
this isn't something in return.
Right. This isn't, like restricting our freedoms, blah, blah, blah. Every time you say that shit, and you allow them to take 1/8 of an inch of your freedom away, you're not going to feel it in a year. You're not going to feel it in 5 years. 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to look back and be like, how did we get here? We got here because every time they took 1/8 of an inch of our freedom, you let it happen. That's how we got here.
Well, I remember the last podcast that you and I were on and we were talking about like relationships and boundaries. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. So the question is, how did we get here? And it's, well, you've foregone all your shit, all your boundaries that you had.
Correct.
That's exactly how we got here.
Correct. Absolutely. And that's the other thing is there's laws in place that make things legal and illegal, like insider trading. Okay. They made that shit illegal with members of Congress and blah, blah, blah. And they still got people that do it all the time. They're not in jail. Why? Well, why? Why if I do it, I go to jail? If they do it, it's okay. Like, that's bullshit. That's not freedom. That's suppression is what it is. I don't care how you look at it. If someone is allowed to do something and you're not allowed to do the same thing, that's not freedom. It's just not. So the more we stay quiet, the more we keep putting these people in office that do this shit, that's the reason we get here, and that's the reason it's going to get worse. And the problem is people are so manipulated by the media and by, oh, you need to vote for this person because of their gender or because of the color of their skin instead of their qualifications, if you literally are going to vote for someone for president based on their gender or skin color, you're an idiot and you shouldn't be allowed to vote. That is, neither of that determines if someone is qualified to run the country.
No.
Okay? That has nothing to do with anything pertaining to running the country. And that's the thing. We vote for these people because of our extreme political party biases instead of saying, well, wait, what is this person's track record of policies and stuff they've implemented and stuff they've tried to implement, and what are they in support of and not support of? Instead of doing that and finding out if this is really a person that you really want to put in this position, we go like, oh, they're a transgender black person, I'm voting for them. That's great if that's what you are, like that's awesome, but that doesn't mean you're qualified to be a politician. That has nothing to do with anything political wise, okay? We should be electing people based on what policies they want to put in place, what policies they have put in place, what policies they've been in support of, like their political history.
Mm-hmm. But I feel like some of these politicians don't even know what policies that they've put in place or what policies that they're for, because they're kind of like puppets and they're manipulated and they do whatever they want to do and they make all these promises.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some are. I mean, they may not know what policy they've put in place, right, because when if they're just forced to sign off on something, but they know what they're for and against. They put it out there what they're for and against. And it just your voice matters, what you allow matters, and just like you said, it's the same. It's the same thing it's the same thing in really a lot of, not just relationships, the same thing in a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. What you allow to happen or not happen matters. Okay, you not speaking up and staying quiet and allowing shit to happen that you don't want to happen, that matters. Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you're sick of the shit that goes on, at what point do you just bitch about it on social media? And at what point do you actually start doing something about it in your life to where like, nah, you know what? Like, I'm done. I'm done with allowing this. I'm done with being okay with this. Like, this needs to change. Mm-hmm. So basically, in a nutshell, how did we get to where we are now? We allowed it. Yeah, if you're not happy with where the country's at currently or where you feel like it's going, stop allowing it. Stop voting for people that are going to push the country in the wrong direction. That's it. Period. We talked about this. The podcast hadn't been released yet. Me and Sal filmed it. It's going to be maybe 2 or 3 episodes down the road. But we all want the same thing. None of us want to pay taxes. None of us want to buy a house, pay off a mortgage, and then have to pay property tax on the house for the rest of our lives. No one wants to do that.
No.
No one does. No one wants 40% of their paycheck going to the government and then the government taking it and sending it to another country. No one wants that.
No.
No one wants that. Like, and the analogy we made in that podcast, I'm going to make here again, is people are too far removed from the situation. So they sit in and they say, oh no, we need to support these wars in other countries. You know, the war in Ukraine, and like, no. We need to help these people out and do that. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. So if you put them closer to the situation, so if payday comes and they're coming to get their paycheck, okay, and you got this nice, pretty little paycheck for them, whatever, it's $2,000, okay? And you say, okay, here's a $2,000 check, and right before they give it to you, they're like, hold on one second. We need to take off $500 because we need to send that to Ukraine because they need your money.
Right.
No one would be okay with that. No one would be like, okay,
Right.
Yeah, take 500 out of my paycheck and go send it to another country. No one would be okay with that. But they're so far removed from the situation, like with taxes being taken out and this and that, and paying them at the end of the year and paying them throughout the year and blah, blah, blah. They're just like, oh no, no. Like we need to do that. No, put them closer to the problem. Take that money out right then and there when they're getting paid. Let them see how much they're losing. No one's going to be okay with it. Not.
I don't think a lot of people are okay with that, though. I really don't.
I'm not saying everyone is, but there are people that are. And they don't realize that they're really not. When you change the whole scope of it and you put it to them in a more realistic way, kind of like the guy that was all for open borders. He was like, oh no, we people need to come in from other countries, whether they're illegal or not.
And yet we're firing people who don't get the COVID vaccine.
Yeah, and so a guy's like, okay, so he unloads a truck full of illegal immigrants on his lawn, and is like, here, he gives them a bag, and is like, here's their medication for the next couple days. They got some food on them, but like you're gonna have to, they're gonna stay with you. And you're going to have to feed them. They're probably going to get hungry at some point. A dude's like, what? No, wait, no, they can't stay here. Like, no, I'm not feeding them. Oh. Now you're not okay with open borders. Yeah. So you're okay with open borders when you're removed from the situation. When like open borders doesn't affect you. But then as soon as they dump 2,000 illegal immigrants in your neighborhood and crime skyrockets and this and that, oh, well, then it's a different story. And that's what I'm saying. People don't realize they're so influenced by these extreme political ideologies that they don't realize that really, regardless what spectrum you're on, left or right, we really all ultimately want the same thing. And we also don't want a lot of the same things. No one wants 2,000 illegal immigrants sleeping on their lawn in their neighborhood. No one wants that.
No.
They don't. And you can see how hypocritical these people are because all of these quote unquote sanctuary cities, these mayors and governors are like, oh, we're going to be a sanctuary city. As soon as they drop a truckload of 5,000 illegal immigrants on City Hall, they bitched. They bitched and got pissed off and they called Washington and were like, no, we got to get these people out of here. I'm like, well, wait. You're a sanctuary city. What do you mean?
Right.
Like, what do you think that means?
What do you think's going to happen?
Exactly. So that's the thing. It's if people could realize that these extreme political biases are really just an illusion, and it's a fucking lie, and that we really all want and don't want the same thing, all this hatred and this division, all that shit
that's planned.
Would dissolve. Yeah. And probably a lot of the shit going on would stop because we'd be a united front and we'd be like, oh yeah, P.S. all 99% of us in the country, we're not okay with this. So we're not doing it. They can't put you all in jail. They can't. And shit would change. We could get these people out of office. We could put people in that align with all the stuff that we all really want. And all this shit would change. But it's unity that is required.
Unity is required, and I feel like the government's really good about playing off of people's emotions too.
Oh, unquestionably.
And this is just the geek in me coming out, but for someone who hasn't taken microecon or macroecon, and you have all this emotion pushed towards you, and you're like, oh, we should do that for them, and we should hand this out to them, and we should be supportive and take care of them. And it's like, well, you just opened up everything that you built for people to come take.
Well, supportive is one thing. Giving people things is another thing. I'm all for
that's what I mean by support, as in like actually giving to somebody, like this support for their life.
So, the government uses religion and politics and gender identity and, all of these different hot topics to divide people. Mm-hmm. When all these people that are transgender or whatever gender think that all these people out there hate them, and they don't. They really don't care. Yep. I don't care. You can identify as whatever the hell you want to be. I don't care. But I don't want it slammed down my throat. And if you are whatever you biologically are and whatever you identify as, I mean, if you're a man and you want to identify as a woman, cool. But like, you can't compete against other women.
No, no.
That's and so people think that's hate. It's not hate. It's not hate. Transgender women, men, whatever it is, should compete against other transgender men or women. I don't have a problem with that. I don't care. But I have a problem with if you're biologically male and identify as a woman competing against a biological woman that identifies as a woman. I don't think that's fair. I'm not, and the big push is about equality. Mm-hmm. You know, oh no, we want all these people to be equal. Well, okay, fine. Well, then we're going to be equal. Mm-hmm. Biological male identifying as a female is not equal to biological female identifying as a female. That's not equality. Okay.
No.
Taking a certain group of people and putting them on this pedestal and celebrating them when you don't celebrate this other group of people, that's not equality. No. So that's what I say when I say that, like, no one cares. We just don't want to shove down our throat. Mm-hmm. I don't care what your sexuality is. I don't care what you identify as. But if I'm not celebrated because I'm a straight white male, then in the name of equality, we're not going to really celebrate any body of anything because we're all equal. And then conversely, if we're going to celebrate this other group, we're going to celebrate all groups. We're going to celebrate straight white men. We're going to celebrate straight white women. We're going to celebrate homosexual men and women. Like, we're going to, all races, all genders, all colors, all everything. We're going to celebrate all of them.
We should just have Appreciation Day.
I mean,
instead of all these different holidays, these odd and end holidays, we just need a whole Appreciation Day for everybody.
And that's the thing. So like I'm all for equality, but I'm for like real equality.
Right.
Not like we're gonna push this group up here because they're special, and oh, you're normal, so that's not equality.
No.
So like, I'm all for everybody being equal, but we're gonna be equal. Like, that's it. And I feel like a lot of other people I've talked to feel the same way. They don't care. They don't care what you identify as. They don't care what your sexuality is. They just don't want it shoved down their throat. Mm-mm. That's it. Like, okay, cool. That's what you want to be. Cool. Go be it. Like, go live your quiet life being whatever you want to be. Just like I'm going to go live my quiet life being what I'm going to be. Fine.
I agree. I'm all good with it.
I could go off on that forever. But anyway.
I know you could.
Forever.
I know you could.
Because people really don't care. Like, people like.
But it's 2024. And I think that I would say, about 50 years ago, we were very closed-minded to certain things, just generationally. We were closed-minded, but now we are open to things. I mean, you do see, I guess, gay places, transgender places, and it's just, it's part of the culture now.
I mean, as it should be. I mean, this is America.
Well, it is.
So you're free to be.
And I think that that's what government does, is they do a really good job of, I guess, separating people.
Right.
And
when
pulling
they should.
apart because they're like, oh, they care about this. They're mad at you for that. And it's
no.
Really?
Not. It's America. You can be. You want to be that? Go be it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not getting celebrated because that's what you want to be.
Right.
Just like I'm not getting celebrated because of what I am. We're all equal. You're a normal American. Mm-hmm. You live in America. You're free to be what you want to be. Cool. Go be it. Mm-hmm. That's it.
You'll be celebrated for working hard.
All right. And no one's gonna hate you for it unless you push out this hateful message and you have this hateful aura that attracts hate. Mm-hmm. Like, if you're going and just existing as this transgender person, just trying to live a normal life, and you're not getting pissed off and offended at every look or word or whatever that someone says, no one's going to walk around hating on you. Like, they hate on the people that are outrageous and obnoxious and really are trying to do things for attention. That's what draws the hate, because they're like, dude, no one cares. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, just go away. Go do your thing.
Well, that's like the and this is the best analogy I can think of. Who's the it's a group. It's a Christian group, but they stand on like the corner at like LSU, or they stand on the corner at like some rally, and they're screaming about infidelity, and they have all the signs, and you're going to hell, you're going to hell.
Yeah, they got them in a French Quarter too.
And it's like, okay, we love Christians, but that's out of control.
Yeah. Well,
that's a little out of control.
So it's extremism. So even in the political world, like, these people who are moderates, your moderate Democrats, your moderate Republicans, you're never going to hear them sitting here on these pedestals about hate. It's the extremists, the extreme Republicans, the extreme Democrats, the extreme religious groups. That's the problem.
It is. And I feel like
I'm Christian Catholic, and me and Sal talked about it on a podcast. Like, I don't think you got your extreme Catholics that are like, being gay is a sin. It says in the Bible, if you're gay, you're going to hell. Okay, well, I don't believe that. I don't.
I do think that all of that has one thing in common, and that is they're not focused on themselves.
Well, it's judgment. It's judgment and it's hate.
So they're focused on what everybody else is doing and how to mirror whatever they're feeling onto everybody else.
Right.
And that's where their focus is. Instead of just staying in your lane, being focused on what you're doing and working hard, nobody's going to give you any problem for that.
No.
It's whenever you're loud and obnoxious and point and blame and point and guilt.
And the sitting there.
That's whenever you draw that attention, and people are like, hold on.
With the extreme crap, like you said, like, oh, this is a sin and infidelity and you're going to hell. I'm like, what is this, the religion that you're identifying with that preaches all of this hate? Because that's not a religion I want to be a part of.
Well, right. So, it makes them look bad.
Yeah.
It makes people walk away.
You're not converting me. You're not telling me that I'm going to hell for what I'm doing and pulling me to your cause. No, and it's not working.
That's what I want to do.
I think you're an opinionated asshole, is what I think.
I want to get up on a ladder and stand on a stool and scream at people with a sign all day. That sounds like a wonderful.
Yeah, right. So many people are going to come to my. So many people are going to be sitting and be like, you know what? He's right. I'm going to clothe myself up and that's it. I'm making a life change. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, but I think that's the same with everybody.
It is. So. Well, it's the same, but in politics. You think you're going to preach this extreme ideology for the left or the right, and you're going to pull people to your cause? Dude, it's not happening. Like, I consider myself
that's embarrassing,
liberally conservative. The extreme conservatism, they're not pulling me their way because it's extreme. That's not what America is. I consider myself, I don't consider myself a Republican or a Democrat. I consider myself an American. Because America was built on the line in between conservative and liberalism. So the extreme message on each side, neither one's pulling me in either way. The extreme conservative message, I want nothing to do with that. The extreme liberal message, I want nothing to do with that. That's not, because that's not what America is.
No, well, both are very close-minded.
Correct.
Very close-minded.
Correct. And judgmental.
Yeah.
Correct.
More in that, I mean, if you're in the center of that, you are actually centered.
Correct.
In your thought process.
Correct.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I could sit here for 3 hours talking about that. So we need to cut that off right where it's at because I keep fucking going.
Okay, let me see. What else do we have? I think just one more, right?
Should be one more, yeah.
Okay. Talk. I think it's supposed to be talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk how to start building yourself back up after the end of a long-term relationship, especially from a masculine perspective, because although everyone heals differently, there's a lot of toxic avenues people in general go down that lead to self-sabotage without having the ability to realize it's self-sabotage, especially due to lack of self-awareness. Self-awareness is huge.
Yeah, self-awareness is huge. So I'll kind of talk about what I did during my divorce. The worst thing you can do after you've been in a long-term relationship, and if you feel like it was a negative relationship, you feel like there was just things that you need to work on, the other person needed to work on, or just it affected you in some kind of way negatively, the worst thing you can do is go get another relationship. That's just...
Agree.
Yeah, you're just setting yourself up for failure. What you need to do is focus on yourself. What I did was, when I went through my divorce, I literally besides going to work at the gym, I was literally like a hermit. You know, I was in that Wake Up Warrior program, and I woke up every morning and I went to the gym and I trained and I came home and I didn't hang out with any of my friends. I didn't go out. I didn't do shit. Like, it was literally whatever homework they had us doing in the program, plus extra shit that I could do, plus reading, plus journaling. Like, I literally did it during all my free time. For the program was 30 days, and then I did a follow-up program that was a year after. So I'd say probably for like a solid 6 months. After 6 months, I kind of wanted to like get back out and just kind of have, I mean, I don't even really know if you'd call it a social life. I just wanted to kind of start going back out to eat again and like having shit to do. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a girl that was at the gym that I became friends with at the time, and that's literally all we did. And I made it very clear up front. I was like, look, I am not emotionally available. I'm not physically available. I'm like, I'm going through a divorce that I'm still dealing with. I'm still working on myself. I'm like, I've been holed up for 6 months and haven't done shit. It would literally be nice just to have someone to go out to eat with on like Sunday night. Mm-hmm. And she was like, no, that's cool, because I'm not really looking for anything. I'm not looking for a fuck buddy. I'm not looking for somebody to date. So no, that's cool. And that's what we did for like 2 or 3 months. We'd go eat on Sunday, and that was it. What? What?
Just listening to you.
I mean, but it was great for me because because for 4 years, I didn't have boundaries when it came to relationships with women. So it was like, I couldn't be friends with a chick. Like, if we were hanging out and we were doing stuff together, like, we were getting physical. So it was actually not only a huge step for me, but it was awesome for me because I had boundaries in place. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the first opportunity I got to adhere to my own boundaries, to put boundaries out. For me, boundaries I had made for myself, I was able to be vulnerable and tell them to someone else. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but adhere to them. Mm-hmm. So like, I proved to myself, okay, you can set boundaries and you can stick to them. So it was actually huge. Now, I didn't realize that at the time, but then months down the road, looking back,
it makes
I was
sense.
I was like, shit, that was actually a really big, like, that was a big stepping stone, like a huge stepping stone that had never, and then that kind of aligned, it showed me that I could live in, and I was more aligned with my values and morals. Mm-hmm. So then setting boundaries in the future and sticking to them, mm-hmm. It was like easier every time and every time and every time. Because it's going to sound weird. And if I can only speak from a guy's point of view, as a guy, if you've never done it before, it is fucking insane how empowering it is to set a boundary with a woman, mm-hmm. physical boundary, whatever, that you don't necessarily even have to set. Like, I was single. Mm-hmm. I could have been physical with anybody I wanted to, mm-hmm. but I knew that it was not going to serve what I ultimately wanted out of life, mm-hmm. and it wasn't going to serve the path that I was on to realign with myself. So to set boundaries that align with all that and then stick to them and live in them, that's very, very empowering. And it feels good.
Feels
So
very good.
when you do that shit that empowers you and makes you feel good in not in like a shady physical way, like going and having sex with some random chick. I'm not talking about feeling good like that. I'm talking about something that empowers you as a man and shows you that you're living in this very, very morally sound and aligned place. The feeling that gives is awesome.
Well,
like
see-
it is. It's fucking serious. I really don't even know how to describe it. It's fucking serious.
Well, I think that's what happens with, okay, when people are in a long-term relationship and they break up, I think that's what causes the spiraling or the sabotage, the self-sabotage, is whenever they break up and they think about what the other person's doing. And they're like, oh, well, if they're going out, I need to go out.
No.
I need to go out to be happy.
No.
Right. Or they're off now dating around and doing whatever they need to do. Well, now I need
Let
to do
'em.
that. Right. And instead of thinking about what the other person's doing, you have to focus on yourself. So I know whenever I had left a long-term relationship, this was years ago, when I left a long-term relationship and just going back to the gym without that person, it was almost like you felt kind of lost. Like,
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, like I left
Something's missing.
home without my watch or I left home without my
Sure.
phone. And it
Sure.
felt like that.
Yeah.
So for me, like my advice would be no matter what, continue what you were doing when you were in a relationship. If you were going to the gym at a certain time, continue doing that. If you were going to a grocery store at a certain time, continue doing that. Continue doing those things that made you you and made you whole without that other person.
Correct.
And then in your spare time, instead of thinking, oh, I need to go out because they're going out, or I need to sit at home and drink wine. No, you do not. Wine is a depressant. Alcohol is a depressant. So for me, it would be like, okay, well, what can I do to build myself up and make myself better? So I'm going to enroll in whatever study program that I didn't have time to enroll in. I'm going to put my time there into growing and making myself better. I'm going to pick up a hobby that I've been wanting to pick up.
Yep.
I'm going to go take that vacation that I've been wanting to do. I never got to do this whenever we were dating because Tom never allowed. Well, now I have the freedom to go do that. Let me call up my girlfriend. What is she doing? I mean, we did a book club. A bunch of girls got together and we picked a book out of a hat once a month, and it was murder mystery books. And we all brought in whatever book that we wanted, threw it in a hat, the title of it, picked that out, and then we met once a month and we did a book club.
Yeah.
And so we did stuff like that, and it improved my self-awareness, my self-thought, and my confidence about myself.
So for me, when I knew that I was okay, when I knew that I was really had gotten back to being ultimately happy and whole as a person again, was when I could come home by myself, alone, and be absolutely perfectly content and happy. And I've told you this before, like, and it sounds silly, but during that time period when I found my happiness again and I, became whole again, the most fucking exciting day of the week was Saturday. Saturday, I'd go to the gym. I'd work in the morning. I'd go grocery shopping after. I'd decide whatever, like I wanted to cook myself for dinner that night. And it was dinner and a movie. Saturday night by myself. And I was just so content. And I was so happy to be able to do that and be like in peace by myself. And that's when I knew I was good. That's when I knew, like, okay, like the holes have been filled. The shit that you had to deal with has been dealt with. Not that obviously, I mean, there's always shit to deal with. You can always get better, whatever. But that's when I knew that, like, okay, you're happy with you. You're happy by yourself. And that's where you need to be. Yeah.
It gets easier as you do it. Like the first time that I went to the gym, I was like, okay, I feel lost. I feel very lost. And then the second day, I was like, you know what? I'm still going to the gym. Second day didn't feel great. Third day didn't feel great. 2 weeks later, still didn't feel great. And then eventually 3 and 4 months later, I'm going to the gym, not even thinking about it. And I'm like,
well, you
doing
have
my
to
own
be
thing.
you have to be happy with you. So like
Yeah.
when you're in a relationship, and I don't think it happens on purpose. I think it's just kind of part of it. I think people lose to a degree their sense of what makes them happy as them, because you're with this other person all the time.
Well, you're a unit.
Correct. And like I said, it's not that that's a bad thing, but when that person's gone, you feel like your happiness is gone. So you have to make yourself whole again.
Right, because a part of you is left.
Right. You have to be happy with you. So you can't be happy with you if you go get in another fucking relationship.
That is not the answer.
No, you have to stay by yourself, feel it, be in it, process what you have to process, and be alone. And find the things that make you happy as you, not as a couple. You need to find out what makes you happy as you. For me, it was as simple as Thursday nights, riding my motorcycle and going to play pool with guys from the gym. That was like, never did that before.
I loved book club.
Yeah. I mean, it was great, and it was something I started looking forward to. Doing dinner and movie on Saturday night, just me. That was something I started. It was just I started putting all these things in my life. I'm like, man, like I feel good about me. Like I'm happy in my own skin. And if you have shit that you're doing, misaligned actions, if you have things that you need to work on, toxic traits or toxic habits that you have, that's that time to address those and fix them and feel better about you and empower yourself to where you don't bring that shit into the next relationship.
True.
And if you're healing from toxic things that you've had to deal with, it's the same thing. You don't want to bring that trauma and those trauma responses into another relationship.
No,
so like work on you. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just saying it makes it hard.
Yeah.
It makes it really hard if you haven't healed completely from whatever your breakup was about or losing that person. It does make it hard if you try to go into another relationship because you are bringing it in there.
Well, and you're never going to have, like, I had a very clear idea of what I wanted out of life. Like when I was spending that time by myself, I knew that I wanted to share my life with someone. I wanted to share life experiences with someone. I wanted to have that feeling of family. Now, notice I said I wanted that. Not I had to have that.
Right.
Meaning I wasn't going to go fill that void just because. Like if there was not some, because I had made boundaries and stuff like that, I had boxes that needed to be checked. So I wasn't going to bring someone into my life that didn't check the boxes because, oh, you know, I want someone. No. Like I want someone. I don't need someone. I'm okay by myself. I'm happy by myself. I want this thing. And I'm going to do everything I can do to make sure I'm the best person that I can possibly be to attract this thing. But at the same time, if I don't, I'm not going to give up my happiness just to pull and some random person or anybody in my life that doesn't fit just because, oh, I want this. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people, men and women, are like, oh, I want a guy like this, or I want a relationship like this, or I want this and that. Well, okay. What have you done with yourself to put yourself in a place to attract that?
Well, not only that, like I think about, so you want all these things in a person. Right, cool. Write it down, make a list. That's what you want in a person. And you go down that list and you say, okay, what do I have out of this list? And what do I not have out of this list? And what I don't have, those are the items that I'm going to work on because I'm going to bring that into my life.
Right.
Because if you have this list of someone that you want, why don't you just be that person?
Right.
Just be that person, and then you'll attract that because you're basically that's the energy that you're putting out there.
Right.
So
well, and that my mindset was, I want this amazing relationship. I want someone amazing in my life to share shit with. I'm not going to be able to have that unless I am the best person I could be.
Right.
So I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I am, the exact person that I want to be, free of all the shit that's going to ruin this thing that I want. So when the possibility does come around, I know that I'm in a place where I'm not gonna fuck that up.
Right.
I can have and I'm gonna contribute. I'm able to pour into that to make that happen.
I saw some guy talking the other day, and it was funny how he put it down, because he was talking to like a group of women, and they were all either they were recently divorced or they were trying to find somebody. They were looking for somebody to date. And he was like, I want y'all to write down everything that you want in a man. And they were like, okay. And he goes, no, I want everything. Write it all down. So they wrote down like 6 feet tall, has a rocking body, has a $250,000 bank account, nice car, nice house, yada, yada, yada. And so he had them like read off their list. And he goes, so what on that list do you have?
Right.
And they got pissed.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, because nobody wants to take accountability for like, right. Oh, you want your partner to have this, but like, what are you bringing to the table?
Right. So if you want someone that has all those items, then you need to have them too.
Right. Now, right. These people basically, they want to pull a chair up to someone else's table.
Yes.
They don't want to be the other half of the table. Right. They want to pull up to someone else's table that's already been made and like, oh, I'm just going to sit here and eat with you. No, fuck you.
Right.
Like, I made my half of the table. Right. You got to complete the other half.
Right. So that's what, coming out of a relationship, that's what I would work on then. Yeah. Write down a list of everything that I want in somebody, and whatever's not on that list, I'm going to make sure that I have that. And I'm going to work towards all of that. There'll be a plan, and I'm going to work towards everything I have. That way, whenever I do meet someone or someone comes along, I can then say, no, motherfucker, you aren't pulling up to my table. Right. I don't fucking need you. Right, you're not pulling up to my table. And then you'll see somebody else, and you're like, oh, okay, well, we might jive.
Right.
You might have what I want.
I think it all boils down at the end of the day. You have, I can speak from a masculine point of view because I'm a man and what I went through. But I think at the end of the day, regardless if you're a man or a woman, you have to work on you. Mm-hmm. Don't get right back into a relationship. Take some time alone. Mm-hmm. Work on you. Audit yourself. Audit your life. Be real with yourself. Be like, yeah, so I did this and I did this and this was my fault and that was my fault. Mm-hmm. Because if you can't say those things, dude, your next relationship's going to be fucked.
Right, because you won't be able to fix it.
Correct.
You'll just repeat it.
Correct.
In the next relationship.
And you're going to think you can do no wrong.
True.
I mean, everyone plays a role at some point in a relationship. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think it's that they might not necessarily think they can do no wrong. They might just not be self-aware enough to actually write down and be like, you know what, I really did mess that up.
Well, yeah. So
I really did. I probably shouldn't have acted that way. I probably should have handled this situation better. I probably should have been more open-minded.
Right.
And then that won't translate into another relationship.
Right. Exactly. And that's what the self-awareness comes from, you being real with yourself, accountability, vulnerability, owning your shit, all that. So.
Yep.
Anything else? Final thoughts?
Nope.
Covered everything?
I think so.
Awesome. We have a little guest here today. Do you want to come, you don't want to come and say anything? I thought you did.
She's been playing with baby dolls the whole time. If y'all heard her.
So we're filming this episode during family night. So Avery is here with us, and at first she was saying that she wanted to come be on the podcast and come say something, and now she's been a little shy. So I can't have another guest on here for y'all. Another surprise guest, just Taylor. So thank y'all for tuning in. Oh, you coming on?
Can you wave?
Wave to the camera.
I want to talk to it.
You want to talk to it? Okay, you can talk to it.
I'll sit down.
You got to talk to the microphone. What are you going to say? You don't know? Why don't you say what your name is and how old you are? No? Okay, so we're done here?
I'm still thinking about it.
Thank y'all for tuning in.
Hey, no! I'm still
What?
thinking about it.
Okay, well, wait. I'm going to say my part, and then you could say it. Okay? As I tell y'all after every episode, if anything we talk about applies to somebody you know or you, if there's somebody you think that can benefit from one of the topics we talk about, just share the Q&A or the episode with them. Life's hard right now. People are struggling. We're all struggling. That's why we're doing this, is to help. I have the opportunity, the ability to talk about the shit that I went through to help other people. hopefully it helps y'all. If you know somebody that it can help or benefit, share the episode or share the Q&A with them.